the 0.8 millimeter nylon cord. I'm going to be using this one so you can kind of see the contrast of the beads. And this one is about 96 inches. Okay, a very long one folded in half. You don't want to cut it down the middle. We're not going to do 2 strings. It's going to be just one very long cord that is 96 inches approximately, and that will give you enough cord for your bracelet. Okay, all right, so this is going to be the 96 inches of the cord. You are going to need, if you're using a board, you're going to need about another piece like this long just to attach your bracelet, and you'll see what I mean. You're going to have a lobster clasp or clasp of choice, whether you want it to be a magnetic one, a toggle one, which one you want, you can have. And then some split rings. I personally recommend split rings if you can get them, which are the ones that are not open and they kind of coil around twice, kind of like a keychain ring. And I love these. Of course, stainless steel, my choice of material. Okay, we're gonna do that on the bracelet with this one that I did on this design. I recommend 4mm beads. If you don't like 4mm beads, just keep in mind that the 6mm are going to be bigger, bulkier, and you're going to have to do more knots in between. So that they can separate nicely. Okay, all right, I'm gonna use a split ring opener plier, chain nose, and 4mm beads. I'm using this color to contrast on that brown. Make sure that the hole is big enough to fit through your cord, okay? And if you go to one of my pinned videos here on TikTok, you will see the tutorial on how to make these beautiful needles on your cord. And you want to prepare 2 needles on each side only if you are going to use beads for this style. Okay, which is the style I'm going to teach you how to start on this one. And explain to you the measurements. So any questions about, oh, and don't forget your board. If you have a board and you can put a nail at the top of it on the part where you attach your bracelet, that would even be better, just like I did here. Okay, and then a clip to go on the other side. You can use a clipboard, you can use anything that will hold, you can use tape. I would use a clip. All right, so what you're gonna do is, we are going to start first attaching one of the split rings to one of the lobster clasps, okay? So I'm going to use my split ring opener, and I'm going to put in the middle of those 2 right there to open it. That's what it does. That's why that one's bent in, for it to do that. And I'm going to grab right there, and I'm going to put in that part. And with my thumb, I'm just going to push a little bit so that my lobster clasp kind of goes in there. And once it's there, I'm going to get my flat nose and just twirl, 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 twirl all the way until it goes in. Okay? And it's on there, attached on there. Okay, so that's the one that is going to have the lobster clasp, and we need one without the lobster clasp, which is this one right here. And these are 7mm, but you can use 8, 10. If you want to use thicker cord, I recommend you use a bigger split ring. Okay, so here's the magic, guys. Pay real close attention to what I'm going to do because it's going to be a while before I repeat it. Okay, we've done this pendant not before. To those that have already seen me do this, and I use it a lot, I'm sorry, you're going to have to watch it again. If not, close your eyes. Okay, so your split ring is going to go through your cord that is folded in half, and you're going to go through the loop. It's going to go through the split ring. Okay, so you're going to have that split ring like this. Okay, on it. Now, I like to hold the split ring in between my thumb and my middle finger like this. So I can pull this, and then I'm going to put my pointer right on top. Okay? And I'm going to grab this loop, and through this big loop that I have on this side, I am going to pull these 2 strands on this side through this loop. Just like that. Okay, all of them, all the way to this side. So now I have it on opposite direction. That over here, and the loop is now on this side. Okay? Now you're going to make like a little X. You're going to twist it. And you're going to grab the 2 strands on this side, and you're going to just pull them back. And that's it. The more you do that, you can repeat and keep doing it, the more knots you're going to have. Okay? So if you go back and forth, you will be able to see the knots stacked up. Okay? So now what you're going to do is you're going to pull, and it creates this pendant knot. Okay, it's really pretty pendant knot. Okay, I've taught this one so many times, but it's my go-to one. Okay, all right, so now that you have this here, we are going to do something that a lot of us don't do, and that this way it's going to be to whereabouts we want our we're going to measure out how long we want our bracelet. Now I recommend you using something round like this where you can go around. Like, let's say I want to make my design from here to here about 7 inches, because my lobster clasp is going to add about 0.25 to half an inch, okay, or maybe an inch depending on the clasp I'm using. So I want to kind of eyeball it, and I am going to wrap it around. You can do it on your wrist if you're doing it for yourself, but kind of do this, and right about there. Okay, so right about here, and I'm doing it from cord to cord. Did you notice that? Not the... So if my bracelet is gonna be anywhere between 7.5 maybe to maybe 7.75, depending on the clasp that I'm using, and you're gonna have to pre-measure that. Okay, I want my bracelet to be the cord part about 7 inches or so. So I'm going right where the cord is. I'm not going to where the split ring is at the beginning. Okay, and you gotta go on set. I want it to be about 7. Okay, does that make sense? If you are doing it with a ruler, if you're doing it with a ruler or a what's it called, it can change. I want the string part to be right about there, 7 inches, but it might change because of my, if I add beads to it, if the beads are too protruding out. So approximately, so maybe a little bit out. I'm just gonna do a little bit out. Okay, right about there. Once you have, you guys, the length that you want approximately your bracelet to be before the attachments, cord to cord, you are going to add your split ring with your lobster clasp. Okay, both strands through that all the way to right about there. Okay, right there. You see that? All right, did you guys see that? So you're gonna add it. So remember, you have this extra long piece. Okay. So now what we're gonna do, you wanna hold on to it to that length. Okay? You wanna hold on to that length that you wanna have it at. Right there. And here, what you wanna do, the person in the video did a no knot, and she attached this to her board and worked off of just doing the knots right away. I didn't like that, and I'm going to show you what I did. Okay, so I am going to do an overhand knot. So I'm going to go around my fingers, and then I am going to go, instead of going from here up, I'm going from top, and I'm pulling this through. Okay, pulling it through my fingers to do the overhand knot. Okay, and you want to make sure that you are pulling and keeping this in place. Okay, just pull so that you can have your knot right there. Okay, so now you should have your split ring over here and this attached like this. Okay, do you see that? You should have your lobster clasp and your split ring, and then all this extra. Okay? All right, so now I'm going to measure, because I want to figure out, just in case it moved. Okay, so this is about 6.5. If I measure from here to here, okay, so I don't know if you can see it. Let me do it this way so you can see it. All right, so my cord part, once it's knotted and pulled tight, it takes me about 6.5 inches, right? But if I measure from the top of my lobster clasp all the way to this, it's a little over 7.5. Okay, so that's a good length approximately of what I want. Okay, does that make sense? And you can play around with the sizes. I like to do, depending on your lobster clasp. So measure out your lobster clasp and rings together put this on a lobster clasp, no, ring, and then attach this to a jump ring as if you had the bracelet connected, and measure from here to here. So that's about almost an inch on my end. So you know that this is going to add about an inch to your length of your bracelet. Okay, so that when you do finish it, you know that. Okay, so far so good. We have this here. And now we're gonna find where the knot, where this is kind of like on top of it, like this. And we're gonna do this on our board now. So we're gonna move to our board. Okay, get your board. I'm gonna put my bracelet. I'm going to put it right there. Okay, there's the knot right there. And then the other, because it's too short, it's like halfway there, that's where our other extra string comes in. Okay, so that extra string that I had you cut, this one, you're just going to put it through your split ring right here. And then this is going to get clipped over here. And that's how you're going to hold your bracelet. Okay? All right. Are you guys ready? You're here for more support? Ew, this looks orange, and it's not orange. It's not orange. Okay. So now, guys, this is what we're gonna do. Here is where you can do whatever design you want. On this one, I did the DNA stitch, the latter one. We did this one. Okay, and you can do regular square knots. These are very good for men that don't like that hanging little beads at the bottom. You can make one for Father's Day with a clasp. Okay, so now here is where you determine what you want. So I'm going to teach you, the one that I did here, okay? So here is where you decide how many knots you're going to do here. You decide the design. So here I did a total of 6 square knots, so that's a total of 12 half knots. And then I started the design. Okay, so you would just have to make sure that the design here is going to be long enough to where you leave the length of 12 knots if you're doing 12 knots. If you're doing 6 knots, if you're doing 4 knots, if you are doing how many knots, make sure that your design that you work is going to be left enough room to have the same amount of knots, okay? And all you do is, by doing your knots, you would just measure how much your knots are, okay? So right here, I'm going to do, does that make sense? I'm going to do square knot. So we're going to go and do the square knot as you would normally do on a macrame. So you see how nice and clean that attachment is right to your split ring? And your split ring and both ends are already attached, okay? You didn't have to cut anything. You didn't have to add anything. Okay, so you're going to do the knots. I am going to do, there's my third knot. There's my fourth knot. My fifth. And my sixth. That means I have 3 square knots. If you see that, that means I have 1, 2, and 3. Okay, because two knots, 2 half knots make 1. Okay, so that is 6, 7, 8. I got to see the ridge so I know where I start. 10. 11 and 12. Okay, so that's going to give me a total of 6 square knots. Okay, so I decided that I want to do 6. So I'm going to measure. Oh, okay, yeah. I go off of the ridges, it's better. Like the ridges right here. It'll alternate. So you see how that ridge is right there? That means that this one is the one I start with. But that also helps. The tying the knot, that also helps. So that you don't have to be like me looking at it like that. So yeah, that's a good tip too. That's a good idea. Okay. So then I'm going to measure how many from only when I started doing my square knots, okay? So from there to there, it's a little over ½ an inch. Okay? So now I know that right about there. Okay? So I am going to work my design, and I'm going to be mindful over here to keep this much length free so that I can do, I'm sorry, over here, so I can do my last 12 knots. Okay? So we are going to just keep an eye on that. We're just going to work until we leave that spot, that exact length that is over on this side, so that we can do our knots. Okay, so for this one I did what string? Like with the marker? How Miss Leisha? You mean with like a marker? Yeah, that could be a good thing too if you want to mark it. That's a good idea because you are going to knot over it. So I do it off of my measurement. Yeah. But that is a great idea. If you guys want to mark it with like a marker or a pencil, or those fabric pens, that would be a great idea. That way you measure, or chalk, yeah. That way you measure the amount that you want to leave available, and then which is right about there. So you would mark it with a marker and then work your design until there. Good idea. Yeah, I don't do that, but that's an amazing idea. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do on each side Yeah, that's perfect. I should start doing that. I complicate my things. Okay. So I am going to put one bead on each of the sides. And I'm using 4mm seed beads with this like turquoise. Unfortunately, I have the seed beads that are not uniformed. So, but it's okay. It gives it more of an artsy look. Like that, okay? So now I have those. I'm gonna go all the way up there, and then I'm going to do 2 of the half knots. There's 1 and 2 to secure. Okay, I'm gonna repeat. That is gonna be my design all the way through the bracelet. And you can do any design you want. You can actually put beads here in the middle that are big enough to fit 2, and you can kind of measure out and see how many you need, but you would have to really measure out by inch. Okay, here I'm going to do knots, I'm going to put a bead, then I'm going to do this many knots, I'm going to put a bead, and you have to kind of figure that out before you add this lobster clasp. Okay, and that takes calculations and designing and something that can be done. Okay, so I'm gonna do 2 of the knots to secure every time I put a bead. And then you can do charms. You can do like the design halfway, and then you can add like a charm here. You can do that. Okay, any questions about this particular one? So doing it this way, you guys, it makes your bracelet look so much neater. Do you string all beads on? No, Patty, because if you string them all on, when you do your knots, they're all gonna fall out. And the string would be too heavy. So you have to string them by section as you go. If you're doing the design in the middle and you know exactly how many beads you're going to be using and you've already measured out, yes, you pre-string them before attaching the lobster clasp on the other side. But because you have to do these knots, you would have to pull all the beads that you strung through this hole right here. Believe me, I don't think you want to do that. I don't think you do. And you could keep doing like maybe 4 half knots, whatever you want. I really like the 2 half knots to make 1 square knot because of how nice and separated these. I mean, they look just the right separation. Too many would look further apart, and I don't think I would. I personally wouldn't like that look. But it all depends on what you guys want to do. Okay, so you guys kind of understand this design here, what I'm doing, right? Just putting the beads on each end and then creating I always start on my right side because that's the side that it was left on after doing. I always start on my right side, so if I do 1 square knot, that means the other square knot is going to start on the right side. So I'd go 1 and then go up, and then this is the second half knot to complete my 1 square knot. Okay, so you're going to continue to work until the marked area that you marked, or the area that is going to be that leaves the same amount of space up here to finish your 12 knots, or whatever knots, however many knots you decided. Okay, does that make sense on how to finish that? So let me show you the difference. And like I said, you can do it with any kind of string. So I'm going to show you the end over here. Okay, so this one, you guys, this one here was done without a knot. Okay, so this one was with the overhand knot. Okay, I love this one more than this one because this is how the lady did it, and I don't like it because there's a gap here, like right there, so it opens up right there, and I don't like that. So I like it where this is going to be like this. So that overhand knot that we did right before we started doing, that's the difference. And I think it does make a difference because look at how nice and neat that looks once you start doing the knots. Okay, so I recommend you adding that on there. Okay, and then this one was with the thicker one, so this one is more Luis likes this type of cord. And then here is what I mean. So if I had my designs like this, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to end it. So this one we're going to end with, let's put this little thing at the end to hold it. To hold it at the end. Okay. So I am going to finish this. And I have room for one more. One more. So this is what I love about this technique, is the fact that we didn't have to burn it here at all. And it was just one whole string that we just folded over and continued using. And here is the only place I'm going to cut and burn this off. Okay, and the knot at the beginning with the pendant knot looks really pretty. And again, I don't like this one because we didn't do an overhand knot, but I did this intentionally so you can see the difference. Okay, and that's when you would finish. Makes it nice and cute. And then you're going to just cut off the excess like that. And you are going to just cinch the ends. Do that. And you know what another one you can do, you guys, on this one is you can do a big focal bead in the middle. So you would just work half, you measure your focal bead, and then you divide the length of this into two. So let's say your focal bead is an inch, right? And this measures 7 inches. From here to here, only the cord design, or I mean the length of your cord, and your focal bead and measures 1 inch. What you're going to do is you are going to do 3 inches, your focal bead, and 3 inches of your design. So you can put the focal bead in, you know, string it before you attach this, and that way you just do, you know, you kind of measure it that way. But do you see how nice and clean that looks? You guys can do keychains this way. If you do a keychain that has a hook right here, that you want to do and maybe hang, you know, like beads or a purse charm, it will give you a better, nicer, more, you know, clean look. And that way, the people that don't like that hangy stuff on their bracelets, like the, you know, beads that hang, you can make these for them. So you see how this one, look at how pretty that one looks. And this one. You guys can make this into a choker, you know, make it bigger, make necklaces, chokers, add a cord.